I'm 29 years old. I'll be 30 in about 5 months. And I've been thinking a lot about this feeling of being left behind, like I'm not where I should be in life. I didn't choose a traditional route, so I brushed up against this feeling a lot throughout my 20s, just like constantly doubting myself. And after talking to so many people, it seems like this is something this seems like a problem far outside my age group and maybe even outside my culture. It's like one of those things that people seem to identify with immediately. They get it. Of course, it looks different from person to person, but I think it might even encompass other common anxieties. Maybe it's something that we can't quite put our finger on, but it's definitely still there. If not all of us, then most of us. That feeling of not measuring up. And over the course of my 20s, it's kind of forced me to reconsider, take a critical look at aspects of my own personality. For example, I used to be very ambitious. Not that I'm not now, but it's different. I used to predict where I'd be in 5, 10, X years and shoot for that goal. And truth be told, for good and bad, that's a roller coaster. Sometimes I surprise myself, but I constantly disappoint myself. I mean, that hardly ever goes. It never goes like I expect it to go. I've been trying to figure out why I experience this, why I brush up against this feeling throughout so many periods of my life, trying to figure out why this goes so deep into who I am. And intellectually I know that I'm not supposed to compare myself to others. I'm supposed to just work on improving myself and not compare myself to others, but it's hard. It's really hard. And it's weird. Maybe it's not as weird as I think it is, but it's weird. I used to have dreams about working hard and staying competitive, trying to get that edge over whatever competition I had. Honestly, my successes and failures equally haunted me at night. I mean, humanity's been like that forever. That's just like part of who we are. You have to imagine thousands of years ago, being a faster runner, being a better javelin thrower, was the difference between eating and not, between reproducing and not. So it shouldn't come as a shock that this ambition to be better, this competitiveness, is really ingrained in our DNA. But you flip that around to the modern era, where we don't really have the same problems. And I think that ambition, that competitiveness, has really robbed me of things in this world that I would rather have. And now, for example, I think it's perfectly acceptable to just enjoy taking a walk through the forest. I mean, I know it sounds so novel, but it might be that that's the best thing life has to offer. Who's to say that a walk around Crater Lake, for example, isn't among the most worthwhile things that a person can do? Someone along the way convinced us that it was better to grind, to work hard. I'm gonna be honest, that doesn't make it true. This is just like something in my mind, something in all of our minds. The entire concept of work as we know it is entirely made up. I do think that this whole thing gets a little bit harder when I realize that I might be part of the problem. And if you looked at my social media feed, you might think that I have an extraordinary life, and to an extent, you'd be right. I'm really proud of what has happened in the last 10 years. But what I publish online doesn't show even close to the full story. It doesn't show the story of the fear, the self-doubt, those moments of, I don't really know what to do, the stress, the anxiety that follows me around from day to day. But who would want to show the worst parts of their life? Nobody. I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for me in any way. I think this is something that we all go through. We all have fear. We all have self-doubt. But what I've realized over the years is that ambition, that competitiveness, is really just this negative self-talk, that pervasive sentence in my head, you're not good enough. I think that for a lot of us, it would be massively worthwhile to just have this experiment where we tell ourselves, I'm okay with where I am, I'm okay with who I am, I'm perfectly happy, perfectly content. You don't even have to be thrilled about who you are, but just be content with exactly where you are. And I know it's easier said than done, but I just think that it would lift this massive weight off of my shoulders, that feeling being left behind. Behind what exactly? I mean, who's even measuring? I think that we all kind of know intellectually, but it's hard to know in your chest that this is entirely made up. This idea of you should be X at Y time does not exist at all. And the people who make it to whatever position do so with completely unknowable variables. It's just like this entire concept is just fabricated. So there's this other YouTuber, and he is, I'm just gonna say, probably among the greatest storytellers of our time. He's actually from my high school. We have some mutual friends, and so it's really hard not to compare sometimes. Said something along the lines of, he had to escape the constant pressure to perform, the constant pressure to do more. There was just like this instant connection with exactly what he said. He wasn't even talking about the same subject matter, but it was just like this revelation that we all go through this, even the people who are miles ahead of you. And I know to an extent when I say that out loud, it kind of sounds like we're all just trapped in this box of never really knowing. For me, it was a relief. It was this weight lifted off of my chest, because even if this is something that never goes away, at least I can say we all go through this. It's part of the human experience, and I'm not crazy. It maybe even gives some validity to things that I've already accomplished, which kind of frees me up to focus on what I decide is important. The more time that goes by, the more I realize that my happiness has been tied to this traditional success and failure. The truth is that jobs, business, traditional success, it's up and down. When I stake my happiness in something like that, it's a roller coaster. And it has been a roller coaster. I'm making a conscious decision now. I'm going to stake my happiness in relationships and those little experiences that I think makes life worthwhile. It might be different for you, but for me, that's time with my kids, hiking through the forest and mountain climbing, and connecting with interesting people like you. And obviously coffee, but that goes without saying. If nothing else, these things are way more stable than business or career. There's no such thing as being behind in life. If you feel like you're behind in a certain area, it just means that you're measuring your success wrong. You're measuring your success by somebody else's. And somebody else's success, and even the variables in that equation, are completely arbitrary and unknowable. Now, I've been working on this for the last few years, and I do still obviously have ups and downs, visions and disappointments. I'm not perfect, but I am getting better. And sometimes I just need a few reminders. You know, this channel I love making great content that anybody can use, but it's also, this is for me. I want to make this video because this is something that I can come back to 6 months from now and remind myself of what's important.